What's up, Internet? What's going on? We got babies in the background. We've got babies in the background saying what's up. I hear that. I hear the lovely Peanut back there. She's having a humdinger of a morning, noon, afternoon, whatever it is. Wherever you are, it's a little baby cry time in the background. So no worries. She's back there with the sitter. She's making wild noises. She's just going like, she's not crying. She's just like, so, yeah, don't worry. If you guys hear the lovely Peanut in the background, she is fine. Checked on her right before the show started. She's just being noisy today. So, my apologies if anyone is hashtag baby triggered in the background from the background sounds. Hashtag baby triggered, right? Because I know some of the ladies out there listening are moms, and some of the fellas out there are dads. And let's be honest, if we hear a baby crying off in the distance, we're like, what do we do? Spring forth into action like ninjas jumping out of trees and attacking babies with, bottles. Like, here's some food, baby. Stop crying. But we love her to death, and she is a marvelous child. And I have to tell you, that boisterous baby back there is 7 months old and does not want to crawl, wants to walk. I don't know if anybody else has been through that whole situation with the baby, but man, she is not into crawling. She's into trying to walk, and it is danger time. She did I believe in the ice skating community, it's called a triple sow cow. I think that's what it's called. Maybe it's a double toe loop or a double Lutz or something like that. I don't know. She did a crazy maneuver and bonked her head the other day, and because she just does not want to crawl anywhere, she's got to climb up and start walking already. So it's pretty funny. But either way, we took her over for her first little camping trip this last weekend. It was glamping, you guys. It wasn't really camping. It's not like we hiked up and pitched a tent. We went out to one of the state parks, and we all slept in a tent. But, Grandma and Grandpa were there with the RV, so, it was pretty glamorous, realistically, when you get down to it. So, but it was pretty fun. It was good times. It was great to be out there in the old sun shining, and somebody else mowed the grass, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have to mow the grass. It was already just pre-mowed for us, which is delightful. I'm completely unsure as to what's going on the porch right now. I don't know. Sounds like people are... Oh, heard Lisa say it was the mailman, so it must be the mailman. But this sounds like they're dropping off a bunch of boxes. If I had to guess, the only time I ever get a bunch of boxes dropped off on the porch are... it's a bunch of insurance stuff for Vicky, because she has to distribute those packets to the peoples that need information. They still do that on paper, which I find to be interesting, but I do realize that most of the people that are looking to, do this whole number right here, like, they're looking with their monocle at insurance documents. They're of the older generation that may not be into PDF files, you know what I mean? I like PDF files. It saves my back. It's much easier to carry those around than anything else. Excuse me. I'm turning my voice. I feel like I'm losing my voice while we were over hill and dale. We were out there in the world. There was like the cottonwood was going. It's like allergy central out there for some reason, and that is not normal June. It's normally comes much earlier, but I don't know. Climate change is happening, and things are happening at different times of the year now. So I guess that's a deal. That's a deal that we all got to deal with. But let's give a shout out to the first people to the chat today. We've got Mellow Moogle coming in hot and fresh, quickly followed by Virgil R. Garwood. Man, that is a majestic name, I got to admit. If that is your legitimate, like, full name, I got to admit, Virgil R. Garwood sounds like it sounds like a sheriff from the Old West. I like that. It's pretty good. I don't know. Sorry about my voice. I feel like I'm feeling a little, you know. I'm feeling a little phlegmy today for some reason. Oh, actually, I think the reason was I was just talking about, you know, the cottonwoods and all that stuff is going right now for some reason, and should have been months ago, but, you know. Corey K says, post air pumps I've ever seen would have kept tanks the last 10 years if I only had one sooner. I'm a little confused on that comment. Hey, all, first real live text. So pumped to found Corvus and his community. The show and the vibe is so great. Well, thanks, Corey. I was trying to check out your post air pumps. I'm not sure what you were talking about there, but oh, here we go. So I had tanks when I was a kid. Fake everything, no knowledge of how ecosystems work. Fast forward 10 years after setting up my planted 20 tall with guppies, is so hooked. All right. I think what you were trying to say was plants and an air pump. I think, maybe. I don't know. I think that's what you were trying to say. But yeah, I think the reality is, I think if when I was a kid, if planted aquariums were much larger, I think I probably would have never taken that big break from aquariums, you know, from when I was a kid till later on. It was just not that popular, and I just don't think that there was that much information in the U.S. realistically, because even if you went to the, you know, the fish store and that kind of stuff, you realistically, the information wasn't that great back in the day. I mean, I can honestly say I got information when I was a kid that was just fast and loose and sort of just made up, you know. I when I was a kid, what they said you were supposed to do was like get an aquarium and put a bunch of goldfish in it, like the feeder fish is what they, you know, and let those fish, air quote, cycle the tank for you. And I even recall a guy that I talked to when I was a kid that they would call it seasoning the tank. So you would basically get some fish, put them in the worst possible conditions for them with a tank that wasn't cycled, and just allow them to be in there basically until they died. And then they would be like, yeah, now you could add the fish that you wanted to keep and it'll be fine. You know, which is interesting because they had science back then and they should have known better, but certainly just didn't. You know, and one of the big things that, you know, I take for granted now, at the point where I'm at, is that a lot of people coming into the hobby are real new and it's very difficult to find certain information. But what I always recommend to people, and I'm giving you guys my recommendation right now, if you are somebody who's new to the aquarium hobby, consider getting into a planted aquarium. You know, if you're going to start out, get yourself a Craigslist aquarium, the tank, you know, with some kind of filter. It just really, honestly, these days, it just doesn't matter what kind of filter. If it's a hang-on back, you know, you could have an air pump with a sponge. There's so many different kinds of filters out there. You can just get whatever you get from Craigslist. And this will make sense as I go along here in my explanation. But you get that tank, whatever's in your budget, and get it set up. Buy some decent substrate. You don't have to buy super fancy substrate. Just kind of suck it up, because that's what you're going to have to do. And whether it be the fluoride or Fluval or ADA or Brightwell or whatever, it doesn't really matter the brand, but get a decent plant substrate, stick that in there, and put a bunch of plants in there and put a decent light on it. Don't even add any fish. Don't add any fish. Don't do any of that. And just let it run for a while. Let it run for 2 months. Mess around with the plants, all that kind of stuff, because you're going to be pretty entertained by successes and failures with just the plants, right? And you're gonna have this big itch to go get some fish. And I would recommend to anybody getting started out, don't get them for at least a couple months, because plants and stuff should be able to keep you occupied. And as that tank the plants start to grow and you start to see a little bit of benefit with it, over that time period, you can start figuring out how to test the water. So, and you're going to be able to do things like, I want to figure out what lights I want. And you're going to have to go read and do a bunch of research and find out if you want to go with LED lights or if you want to go with power compacts or fluorescent lights or high pressure sodium bulbs or metal halides or whatever you want to go with. And you're going to definitely occupy that time like learning about your plants, and maybe you want to put some hardscape in the aquarium. And by hardscape, I mean rocks and driftwood and things. And one of the places I always recommend if you're starting out is to go over to aquariumcoop.com. Check it out. They are an affiliate sponsor, so if you are interested in, buying things from there and you use our link, it lets us know that you used our link and you're coming from here. So that's a benefit if you're like, hey, I like listening to this guy's show, and you also want to support, and you also want to get some of the pretty much the best prices on the market. And I was talking about lights. There's a link right there to Aquarium Co-op, and you can go look at some of those lights that are over there. Those are the lights that I use, the Fluval 3.0 lights. But the reason I recommend Aquarium Co-op, if you're starting out, you can go over there, check out the list of plants that are there. Almost all of them you're going to have a reasonable amount of success out the gate. Almost all the plants there are literally designed so that you can, if you're somebody that's starting out in the hobby, maybe you're intermediate in the hobby, maybe you're even advanced in the hobby and you want a good quality plant, that's cool too. But this all stuff that they have in stock, they're able to send out to you and get you the stuff that you're looking for, and you can just mess around with that tank for a couple of months with those plants and all that kind of stuff, and then kind of keep thinking about what you're doing. Warren Williams says, when is that painting getting finished? This painting has been here for a grip, just sitting up here on the easel. I haven't been painting that much. Speaking of that specifically, this painting will be finished. It's for somebody at this point. It's for somebody who has supported this show for a really long time. And lo and behold, when you get down to it, somebody requested it and they really wanted it, and there was a good reason for it. And people are going to ask me how much it costed. Is costed a word? Cost. How much it cost. And I will tell you, it's a lot if you have to ask. It was a lot. And so yeah, I will be doing some paintings and stuff at some point in time. I realistically, and I know this is like the world's tiniest violin when I talk this way, but I am really just scheduled to the max right now. I have a baby. I have a full-time YouTube channel, not only with live shows, but also edited stuff that I'm trying to get out, that I'm trying to film and edit and all that kind of stuff. And curate it, and not just make a video that's like, oh, here's a fish tank. Not on top of that, I do have a small construction company that I'm working on a giant project that I can't really tell you guys about now, but I can tell you guys about it when it's finished. We're also, scouting locations to try and do a maker space. It's garden season, so we have the garden going. I have 2 dogs. We have chickens. There's a lot of stuff going on constantly. So I'm kind of pushed to the max right now as far as things like a painting. It can sit there, you know what I mean? So it is very, very very hectic and busy over here right now. As I mentioned, we went over to Wenatchee, and we did get some rest and or relaxation or whatever. I'm gonna be honest with you. By the time we got back from that, I'm so wiped out that it's hardly worth it. You know, I mean, the drive home is supposed to be 3 hours, turned into almost a 6-hour drive. It was like 5.5, whatever, and then unload the truck and do all that kind of stuff. And you know, so little Olivia there was just completely unhappy with being riding around in the car. You know what I'm saying? So she was crying and totally upset. And then when we got her here and got her out and just set her down in the living room, she just played and was smiling and was like, I just didn't want to be in the car anymore. You're like, great. So there's nothing wrong with you. This is just an opinion-based crying. Cool. And who was asking? Donald's Fish Vibes was asking. Let's see, where did it go? I don't want to misquote anybody. Oh yeah, there it is. Donald's Fish Vibes is asking, are your tanks indoor or get some sunlight? My tanks are 100% indoors. I do not want them getting random amounts of sunlight. You know, I think if I lived somewhere like Florida or like JH Aquatics, he lives in the Virgin Islands. Like, I think if I lived in the Virgin Islands, I probably would utilize the sunlight more. But around here, it is just so weirdly inconsistent that, you know, one day you'd have 100% direct, one whole day of bright light, and then you'd have 2 days of completely diffused dark day, right? So that would just create so many fluctuations within the system that it would be it'd be disadvantageous. Yeah, that's a big word. I swear I can get the big words out today, guys. The baby's crying again. Oh, and but it would just be super disadvantageous for me to operate that way because I do have some plans in the future to be doing a lot of aquatic plants outside in the greenhouse. As you guys know, I got the footing and the pathway dug out, but that's kind of just sitting there because I have to put all the form boards in and then order the cement truck to come out. So it's just going to be a project to get all the form boards in and everything and get it ready to do that because I got an estimate. To get it done, and just the pathways and stuff was going to be $16,000. So pretty much just like, yeah, I guess I'm going to be doing that myself because we cannot afford that. And considering that the cement, where I can order a whole load, I believe, I don't know if somebody's going to quote me on this and say I'm wrong, but 6 yards of 6 yards of concrete from the rock yard, which actually is not very far from here. I called them to ask about it, and because it's only like the guy was like, yeah, it's 3.8 miles. We don't really gonna charge you too much for that. I was like, okay. So you know, each load is about $500, I think, after taxes and stuff like that. So I think realistically, if I do all the work, which I'm just gonna end up having to do that, it's probably gonna end up being, I don't know, about $800 in parts and then about $1,000 in cement. So that's considerably more affordable than $16,000. So, you know, but the big problem is it's just going to take a long time to get it done because I can only do it little bit by little bit because I end up running out of time. Virgil R. Garwood with a $5 super chat says, man, I just noticed I messed up the @ref number equals 5 when I did my last order. I'll get you this way instead. Oh yeah. Well, thanks, Virgil. Thanks for the super chat. And hey, you know, hey, everybody, you know, people click on links, you click on that kind of stuff, you know, it all eventually adds up, you know what I mean? So, and the reality is that, like, I do get paid from the Aquarium Co-op when I'm up there working and stuff, so it's not really honestly, it's just they're a good company, and I can recommend them. Most people don't click on the links and stuff like that. They'll probably just Google search Aquarium Co-op, and the way I see it is like that's all a blanket victory because not only is Corey, but everybody that works there is awesome, and to support that company is important to me. So if you guys are supporting that company, it's all going to work out fine, and I'm not super stressed out about it, and I would prefer people to use links and stuff like that so we would know how many people are going. And honestly, I make a commission off of it, so it's helpful too, Let's see here. We got to scroll back up because I missed a couple of super chats here. I got some $1 super chats from Joshua Kelly. Well, thank you very much, Josh. Appreciate it. And the zombie drummer with a $2 super chat says free money. Well, thanks, Zombie Drummer. Zombie Drummer's been coming out here supporting the show for a long time. So I appreciate everybody for showing up. As you guys can see, there's a lot of people with little emojis next to their name. Those are all the members too. So shout out to Big D Smoke, It's Nature Man, RNH2O. Let me scroll through here, see how many. Ricardo Santiago, Candy Overhauls. I think Mellow Moogle is also. Let's see, who else? How many other members we got here? Oh, we have a brand new member that was over the weekend when we weren't live. Let's give a big shout out to Lee Coldfoot, coming in hot and fresh over the weekend. Well, thanks for joining up and becoming a member. That's like one of those things that people are like, "What's up with this membership thing?" Realistically, YouTube put it out there, and it's one of those things that's $5 a month. So if you don't want to go off platform and you wanted to stay on platform, right? Like you don't want to leave YouTube. You get some emojis and stuff like that, and we will be doing some members only live streams here in a while. That doesn't mean if you're not a member you can't watch it. You can watch it. Just all the members get that early access with air quotes. Because you can actually chat live with me. I think your delay is only 3 or 4 seconds, whereas right now it's almost a minute or 30 seconds or something like that. But then, what's the other thing? Oh, but then the people on the Patreon, I am working on doing some actual Patreon-only live streams that will be later on. You'll get those will get uploaded later on, like way down the road, and you might not actually get to see the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? You might not actually get to see the whole thing on YouTube, but the whole thing will be broadcast onto Patreon. Still kind of working that out a little bit. I think as far as I know, when we do those, that's going to be me and Bentley Pascal is going to be on the show. We're going to be doing it that way. Twin Cities Guppy says, what kind of ice cream? Ooh, man, I will leave that up to the Twin City Guppies team to figure out what kind of good ice cream we should, what kind of ice cream we should bring down. I am going to be cooking dinner for Twin Cities Guppies. Kang Lee and Sai are coming down for dinner. They will be here, and we could have had them come down for the broadcast, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, this office is a disaster right now, and I wasn't really ready for it. I swear that they were supposed to be here next weekend, and turns out they're here now, and I don't know how to read a calendar, so they completely communicated it to me correctly, and I screwed it up. But luckily, I'd already done a little bit of prep work, so when they come down, our hospitality will still exist, so everything should be fine. But I thought they were coming down next weekend. I don't know why. I was like, I got another week. I'm not worried about it, because I'm pretty sure the studio, I'm going to be able to have that done by the end of this weekend. So, well, Zach Clark says, I just rewatched your video on propagating Anubias and followed along with my own. I was able to split it up into 8 plants that were all still bigger than the original plant I put in. You rock. Oh, thanks, man. That's one thing I would remind anybody. If you do have a nubius, you want to be propagating it. It is nice to just allow it to stay and let it grow and not really fuss with it or anything like that. But when you are splitting it and propagating it, it really will allow it to grow a little bit quicker. Warren Williams is asking, is the makerspace an open to the public thing? Yes, that is the plan for the makerspace, is that it will be open to the public. Now, obviously, limited hours because somebody will have to be there. But I do plan on it kind of being one of those things that, like, there'll be a standing times that people could come by. And you know, it also would be one of those things, like, as people come into town and stuff like that, it's like, oh, we're going to be in town on the weekend of whatever, you know, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we could plan to have somebody there. I do hope in the future to be able to have a few more people than just myself involved in it. You know, I think that the makerspace would be like a real positive thing if it can be, you know. Recently, I was checking out Dennerley they have a YouTube channel that they're starting up now with Volker and Chris Lukup. Those two hombres out there in Germany. I love them to death, and I was kind of checking in on them to see what they were doing. And they made a little studio where they're doing stuff and making some little videos and everything. And you know, that's kind of along the lines there of having some tanks that can be filmed and messed with, and not have to invite a bunch of strangers over to my house. Like Twin City Guppies, like King and Sai coming to the house, that's totally fine. I've been to their house, like I know them, it's all good, no big deal. And I'm just gonna make fun of JH Aquatics since he's in the chat. I'm just making fun here. I'm just kidding. But let's just say JH Aquatics was in town. I wouldn't want him coming to my house. I mean, Joseph's a good example of somebody that could come stay at my house. It would be fine. But let's say I just never met him before, and he was coming to town, and it's like, you know, my fish room here, if I keep making it bigger and bigger and bigger, I still end up having to have a bunch of people come to my house. So let's say that Joseph came to town and we wanted to shoot a thing, but I'd never met him before. It's kind of awkward in my fish room. It really is. Like Lucas Bretz was here and he's like, wow, this is way smaller than I thought it was going to be. I'm like, it's a small room that's dedicated to just fish tanks. So if it doesn't do anything other than fish tanks, right, then it's kind of just a singular function like that, and it doesn't really work all that great. JH Aquatics says Green Aqua has a nice studio too. They have a retail store. I do not want to ever have a retail store. That is not one of my goals. It's not something I ever want to do. I think if I ever was going to be selling something, I think I would be selling, you know, if let's say that I had let's say I had like a big fish space like Green Aqua does. And I can say with confidence because I've been to Green Aqua in Budapest. Corey and I both went there, and we checked it out. And it's a retail store. That's what it is there for. And they shoot all their videos in there and stuff. But, you know, Budapest is a little bit different. Is a little bit different than, for instance, in America. Like we were there on a Saturday, you guys, at 2 p.m. And they were like, yeah, we just closed. Like, what? It was like, oh, did you guys close special because we're all here? Like, you didn't need to do that. That's crazy. And they're like, no, we close at 2 p.m. on Saturday, right? So it's obviously a little bit of a different vibe. It's a different, it's a different market. It's a different thing altogether than in America. Whereas I'll tell you, in America, if you have a retail store that's not open at 2 p.m. on a Saturday, like you might as well just never open ever again because you're gonna have all sorts of people knocking on your door trying to get in to buy stuff. Whereas in Budapest, they're like, nah, we don't do much shopping on a Saturday, you know. So it's just kind of a different environment over there. I love the guys, all the guys from Green Aqua. Awesome YouTube channel, that's for sure, and awesome projects and beautiful tanks. I've seen them in person. They're awesome. Yeah, but it's also a retail store, and that's not my jam. You know, I think if I ever did a space like that, I probably would have a some kind of a restaurant or something like that attached to it. And maybe not even a restaurant. I don't know. But I'm not a retail guy. I don't want to ever be a retail guy. And another one of the reasons I don't want to be a retail guy is that, you know, companies get mad at me on a regular basis if I'm like, hey, this product is junk. Like, what is this? This is stupid. You know, and they get mad, you know, and then I'm like, but is it not what I said it was? You know, like, they're like, well, it is that, but we're still mad at you. You know, it's like, okay, you know. Sorry about that. I had a bunch of garbage on my table here, and I was just playing with it. Oh, I had to throw that in the garbage. You know, so I don't ever really want to be a retail guy or deal with the supply chain or, you know, stocking things or any of that kind of stuff. That's really not my jam, and it's certainly not my goal. But I think that the makerspace could at least be a valuable idea within the zeitgeist of the world, right? Is that you know, a space like that can be operated basically at the idea that, like, it would make its own money from making videos and stuff like that. You know, Warren Williams says, sounds like Aquarium Zen. Last time I went, they just weren't there. Yeah, that was my experience a bunch of times with Aquarium Zen. Even, you know, a bunch of times I went there and they just were not open, you know, and it was like, it's Wednesday. Like, are you not open today? You know, and I don't know. There was a couple days a week that they were not open. I think Monday, Tuesday. So, but, you know, shout out to Steve. I hope everything's going well at the Aquarium Zen. But, you know, it takes a lot to get me to go out to a store. And, you know, if I drove all the way to a store and they're like not open, like, man, because I order almost everything online. And to be honest, I'm willing to pay extra for it to just show up at my house. I'm one of those people, you know. Like, I would buy something that was $23 instead of $19.99, right? And it's the same thing, but one of them just shows up at my house. You know what I mean? I'm like, save $4 or go drive around for 3 hours. You know, I'm like, here's $4. Like, take my $4. It'll show up in a couple of days. I'll just wait for it. You know, I'm an avid guy that I have a bunch of stuff on the Amazon watch list so that if things like drop below a certain point or a certain price point, that I would consider buying them. You know, oftentimes it's photography and lenses and camera stuff, which is just hyper expensive, but that's one of the reasons that I would have a watch list, because I think if a Canon C100 Mark II was like $1,200 or something, like, I probably would just buy it just for the sake of, like, ooh, those things are like $2,500. You know, I almost would just buy it, try it out, and if I didn't like it, I would try to sell it for $2,000 or something. I don't know. Alvin Alejo says, what about a GoFundMe for your makerspace if we want to help you out without Super Chat and having YouTube take half? Well, that's basically what the Patreon is for. The Patreon page is for that. It's for all of these projects, you know. Like, I buy products, test them out, make YouTube videos about them. The Patreon page is about helping fund it, help pay for editing costs and photography costs and all of the nonsense that goes into making stuff for YouTube. That's what the Patreon page is for. And the goal is set up on there for the makerspace, and whether or not people can or can't do it. You know, I think one of the things is, like, the problem with GoFundMe is it's just such a weird thing to be messing around with. And the thing about Patreon is that you can do a one-time donation to Patreon. You know, you can just go on there and do like, hey, I want to do $10, and then you can just cancel it. You know, so you can do a one-time thing on Patreon too, if that's something that people were interested in. And you know, YouTube does take a big portion of, you know, super chats and all that kind of stuff, but that's just the way that it is. You know. Let's see. Bentley Pascal says, Joel and I have talked a bunch about it. It's a tough game. Oh, yeah. So let's see. What was Bentley saying up above? Yeah, just the GoFundMe thing is super weird because it's like, if I lived in an area where there was like super cheap buildings or something like that, I mean, you could be like, oh, the goal is 40 grand or something, and we're going to buy this place down the street or something like that. But the places around here are turbo expensive. I live in one of the most expensive markets. Like I said, I've said this in previous episodes, but I moved 38 miles away from where I lived before because it was that expensive up in Seattle. I moved all the way down to southern Tacoma. Vicky and I both did together, combined, because it was so expensive up in Seattle, and it's just trickling south. Like the cost around everything around here is trickling south. So, you know, I do have goals in the future that, you know, to buy a property someday or something like that. But the reality is, we probably wouldn't be buying anything. It would just be running a lease and operating a lease. And I feel like if somebody wanted to do $1 a month and see how it went, you know, and they're like, how's this going to go over the next couple of months versus, you know, somebody like dropping $50 or something and then being like, man, I never got my $50 back. Right. So I just kind of the way I look at it. And, you know, there's going to be other people with other opinions and all that kind of stuff. And that's fine. Like, it's totally cool. To be brutally honest, I've seen over the years, I've been on YouTube for almost 10 years now. And, you know, I've seen over the years successful people. I've seen unsuccessful people. I've seen all sorts of things. And one of the conclusions that I've come to is that whether successful or not, or whether current or not current on YouTube or anything like that, let's say that somebody built a giant thing, and then it was on their own property, and it was never accessible to the people that would want to go to it, like people that were fans of the project. And here's almost like a parallel, right? You know that show This Old House? You know, you never really got to go to the This Old Houses until they were like done, and whether or not somebody like funded them to be open, because a lot of the time This Old Houses were private houses, so you never like got to even go see it. So you could almost watch 6 months of them remodeling and doing all that stuff in the house, and then like never got to go see it in person. And that to me, like, to be honest, like if I was close to one of This Old Houses, I'd want to actually go see it and be like, oh man, this is the inside and stuff. And so I think that's one of the big things that's kind of a problem right now, is that like there's a select few that could come to town and could come to my fish room, like Lucas Brett's, like Twin City Guppies, like JH Aquatics. There's select few, the people that I actually know, people on the inside circle of like, hey, you know, JH isn't going to, you know, like Joseph's not going to burn my house down. Like he's not an arsonist, right? So there's some people on the inside, but how are the fans ever going to come check out the tanks that they've been watching for years and years? And that's one of the things that I kind of popped into my head as just like, like what could we do and how could this work? And I really think it's something that could work out, especially if, you know, if making videos there and all that kind of stuff is the thing, then I think it's really worthwhile to do, especially if, you know, it's received well, then I think it's a good deal. John Allen with a $20 super chat. Crazy big super chat. Says, love the show today. I've been growing a crypt flamingo plant, and a bunch of the leaves lost the pink color, but the new leaves are a vibrant pink. Is this just the plant converting to my tank's water, dosing UNS AIO ferts? Okay, John. Now, the pink flamingo crypt is a bit of a confusing one out there, especially even with a lot of the people that are in the know. So let me be straight with you on that. So Stefan Hummel out at Dennerle in Germany, he's the guy that cultivated that plant. And, you know, he fully admitted it, that he was like, yeah, it's a Wendetii that started growing strangely. You know, it's just like, this is growing some weird colors. Let's see if we can't keep this going. You know, it's like, if we can't keep this going, and then, you know, they cultivated that, and then they cultivated that, and then they cultivated that. Now, here's one of the weird things that even when I talked to Stefan about it, he was like, it's a really weird plant. It's very difficult to tissue culture. It's very difficult to keep growing. Even once you tissue culture it, you could have it die. You could have it grow well. And one of the things that's coming up very often now, and I actually have one of them doing this, it'll start growing green again. Like, it'll start growing the typical green spotted leaves instead of the hot pink. So if you have a plant if you have a flamingo, a crypt flamingo that's doing that, that's the appropriate thing. Those old leaves should have died off and sent out some new leaves. So if it's doing that, fantastic. And it sounds like you've hit the sweet spot with your ferts and your lighting and stuff like that. So I would be interested to know exactly what your lighting is, because you might have some interesting lighting and what your water parameters are. And also, you know, one of the big reasons that I've mentioned Patreon is that, you know, like, there's a perfect example right there with John, is that, you know, at the $20 mark, you could go over to Patreon and have done the $20, and we could be messaging back and forth. You could have posted pictures about this. You could have posted a big, like, you could have let us know all of your water parameters, what you're dosing, what you're not dosing, all that kind of stuff. And we could have popped it up on the Friday show for the people that, you know, there's a lot of people out there that can't afford to do Patreon, but they can afford to listen to YouTube. So we focus on that stuff on the Friday shows. But I'm definitely interested. If I don't know if John is on Patreon or not, or any of that kind of stuff, but if you're not, and you're like, man, I already super chatted $20. Hey man, trust me, I understand. $20 is $20. But if you want to forward that stuff to me via email, you can email me, joel@darkstararts.com, and I'll be able to get that, and we can kind of talk about that. We can hit up some of those points over the next shows and over time, because I will be doing some edited content about the pink flamingos here. I want to say, you know, I would love to give you guys a promise that it was like coming up tomorrow or something, but it's definitely not. But it's on my whiteboard. Trust me, it's a plant that I would love to give you guys more information on, but I'm kind of struggling as to collect my own experience information as opposed to other people's experiences. You know, so that's really kind of the strange thing. But as I brought up the Patreon, also a big part of it is that we do have a bit of a community over there, and I don't want to misquote. But 287 people over there is our little close-knit community over there, where you can post on the community tab, and then if you have something immediate, you can post it on there, and then you know, people can get back to you and stuff like that. So anyhow, enough of the self-promotion there. Let's get to the video portion of the show. And John was asking, how do I connect with the Patreon? Candy Overhauls posted the link right there into the chat. If you click on the www.patreon.com/Joel_C, because I am the Joel C, that's me, and you'll be able to check it out there and that kind of stuff. So you know, we fired Joe. He wasn't very helpful. What happened? Oh, yeah. Okay, I see. Yep. Yeah, there should be an L in there because yeah, Joe wasn't helping anybody out. It just if you send that email without the L there, it just goes off into oblivion, and then you never get response. Woo. Johnny O'Free says, if you were on a tight budget, what lighting would you buy for a reef tank with low demand corals around 20 gallons? To be honest with you, I have the 60-gallon cube. That's my reef, and I've been using the Fluval 3.0 reef versions, which is actually sponsored by Fluval. So I didn't buy them, but I bought the 24-inch one, or I didn't buy them. I got the 24-inch ones from Fluval, sponsored from Fluval, and they have worked out pretty darn well. I'm pretty happy with them. I think anything deeper than a 24-inch tank, it might be a bit much, but I think on a 20-gallon, like one or two of those on there is plenty. One of the big problems with doing a 20-gallon reef tank is that most of the lights that you could get that are on the cheaper side are like a spotlight laser beam in one spot and then nothing around them. So even a couple of par 38 light bulbs, I don't even think they would even do as well as like one of the Fluval reef lights, and it has the timer built into it. It has the Bluetooth app, so you can set the timer and set the ramp up and ramp down, and you can actually I think there's like 3 or 4 different reef style settings in there, which I found those to be pretty helpful. I basically took those and kind of modified them for my own thing. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with those reef lights. If you're on a budget, that eliminates a lot of better lights than the Fluval 3.0s. But I'm saying that like those 24-inch reef lights were like $80 or something like that. They're just they're just not that expensive, especially considering like how expensive reef lights are. I know a lot of people get upset about Planet Tank lights. Like the most expensive Planet Tank light out there, I think, is the Kessel. What is it, like the Kessel 360 WX or something like that? The new one. I've never even tried that one out. I looked at it at the Aquatic Gardeners Association. I think that's probably the most expensive Planet light out there, and the most expensive reef light is probably 10 times as much as that one. So it's not that rare to see people spend $5,000 on their reef lights, $8,000 on their reef lights. So I've seen that a lot. I've seen that a lot of people spend a lot of money on crazy reef lights. One of the stores I used to work at, we used to sell some lights that were sort of knockoffs, and people would come in and regularly buy them for $600, $800, like all the time, just regularly. Like wasn't even a big deal. They were just like, oh, cool, man, that's a good price, $7.99.99, and just whoosh, keep their corals alive. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think realistically, if I was reefing on a budget, reefing, we're probably getting demonetized big time today. But that's okay. We got a couple super chats earlier, which will cover it anyhow. So thank you, guys. Definitely covers it. Let's see. Virgil says, oh no, Fluval's still tripping, but that 3.0 light works. It really does. It's a good light. I can't wait for the 4.0 to come out, because if that has all the stuff that we're looking for on top of what already is, I'm gonna be pretty excited when that thing comes out. Let's see here. We want we're over here. We got the video going now. Seems like a pretty slow moving video though. Luckily it's 14 minutes long, which is right about how much time we have left for the show, so I think that'll fit in nicely. So we'll see that background going on. Let's see. Corey says lighting is the one weak point on my tank. It's just too expensive. Yeah. I mean, there are a few cheap solutions out there that you can definitely get by on for a certain amount of time, but I would, my advice would be to honestly just save up some money and get rocking and rolling eventually on some lights. Maybe work a couple extra shifts or something like that. Put some money into savings. Even on these 5 foot. This is a 5 foot tank right here. Even on a 5 foot tank, realistically, I have 2 of the Fluval 48-inch 3.0s on here. I can light any plant I want in here just fine. And it's a 150-gallon tank right here, and those are only $185.99. I think is what their price are. They might even be cheaper. I don't even know. But $200 is pretty easy to save up. Work some extra shifts. Mow some lawns, do whatever. It's not that hard to come up with $200. It just really isn't. I mean, even if you're 16 years old and you don't have a job, I mean, you can offer to do some, clean up your neighbor's yard for $10 an hour, or, I realistically would do a flat rate thing so that you could work super hard and get out of there faster. But, $200, I know to somebody out there that's flat broke, $200 sounds like a ton of money, but it's just, if you think about it, even if you're making $10 an hour, like you only have to work 20 hours to make $200, so, and technically you could do that before tomorrow, right? 24 hours in a day. I'm not saying work 20 hours straight, but you know what I'm saying. It's not that big of a deal. Corey has a discount code right now. Save quite a bit now at Corey K. $20 off a $200 order. Oh, yeah, I saw that Father's Day sale coming up. That's going to be pretty exciting. I was going to talk about that on Friday, the Father's Day sale, because that's going to be a pretty cool sale. John Allen says the UNS Titan T1 is about $550. Yeah, it's pretty expensive. ADA lights can be $750 depending on your location from JD Wells. That's true. I'm not sure how much the ADA lights are here. In the U.S., it has been years and years since I bought one. To me, I personally think there is a cutoff point of quality. You know what I mean? Like, I almost just think it's, that you definitely do get to a point where, there's a name on it, and you're almost paying, I guess, to all the youngsters out there, it'd basically be like buying a Supreme t-shirt, right? That costs $300 because it's a Supreme t-shirt, Like, it's still just a t-shirt. And the ADA lights, the $800 light, there is a point where you're literally paying for the name tag. And, if ADA wants to challenge me on that, cool. I'm more than happy to test some of their lights out side by side or something like that if they want to try and do that. But, that's typically a company that doesn't even return emails if you ask them about anything or whatnot. Do I think ADA makes really good products? Yeah. 100%. Most every product I've ever used from them has worked exactly the way that they said it was going to work. But there is a point where you're like, you're paying for the Ferrari emblem. You know what I mean? Where it's like, this car does top out at 186 miles an hour, just like this other car, but this one says Ferrari. Whoa. So, because light is light, and eventually you do get to a point where you're just paying more for some emblems or maybe a styling aspect, which it does have value. If you need something that is, brushed stainless steel and it needs to look a certain way because you're, putting it into somebody's living room, then that has value also. The aesthetic side of products do have value also. It's just what you're willing to pay. And there is a point where I'm just like, okay, because $800 I could get 4 of those Fluval lights and set up some other tanks. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Cheshire Cat is claiming to not know what a Supreme t-shirt is. I don't know if I believe you. You're in college. I don't know if I believe you. I got my skeptical eyes on right now. Skeptical. Being skeptical. Let's see. UG Aquatics, the Wi-Fi 32-inch fits over a 4-foot tank and will kill 2 ADA or Twin Star lights. I've never done a test with the against the ADA lights. I wanted to test some Twin Star lights. I thought they were going to possibly send some out, but that seems unlikely at this point. I talked to Kessel, and they were interested in sending out a light, and I was like, hey, at the very least, I just want to test it. I'll send it back to you. I don't, I won't break it or anything well, I guess I can't really guarantee I won't break it, but I was like, I won't intentionally ruin it for any reason. I can say that I wouldn't intentionally ruin it because I won't intentionally ruin it. I'm going to move me over here because it seems like there's more. Where's the action at in this video? Seems like there's a lot going on. I should be up here. This is where I should be right now. No. I'm going to move me over here. I'm going to make me real small. I'm going to make me half cut off. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll put me down there. Okay, there we go. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes in the future if somebody wants to send some stuff out and try them. But I was planning on building some racks and doing some different tanks, but it didn't seem like any of the companies were super excited about doing it. So realistically, I just kind of felt like, it's something that I want to do, but maybe that just has to kind of go on the back burner for a little while. Maybe once the makerspace gets going, maybe companies will be more excited about, doing some tests side by side. So essentially what I was going to do is set up, a bunch of nano tanks and have them all plumbed into the same sump. So we all had the same substrate, the same water supply, all that stuff. And then, essentially would have isolated tanks and have them all on the same timer, the same CO2, all that stuff. And then be able to test some of the lights side by side, all at the same settings and that kind of stuff, and see how well they would do against each other with the same plants too, because I would just source all the plants from the same spot and and go that way. But right now, just sort of like, okay, well, other people don't know what Supreme is, but you'll have to Google that later, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. I could tell you the story, but it's basically a company came up with the Supreme logo, and they started putting it on stuff, and then they only made X amount of things with the Supreme logo on it. So it has inflated the price tag of things, like a T-shirt that says Supreme on it, being $300. There was a brick that said Supreme on it. Let me see. Hold on. Supreme brick price. How much is... Oh, yeah, here we go. There's a Supreme brick right now for sale that has Supreme stamped into it. It is a standard issue brick that is a Supreme brick in the box with the packaging, all that kind of stuff. Buy it now, price $2,500. Obviously, that's eBay, so it's a little bit weird. But here we go from a retailer. So you can actually just buy this as a retailer, and the Supreme brick is $150 from a retailer. But I don't know where this retailer is. It looks like it might be outside the U.S. I don't know that I would order that if you were in the U.S. Here's the Supreme crowbar from a retailer. Stadium Goods is American. I know that company. So this might actually be a legit Supreme crowbar for sale for $500. The Supreme Sports water bottle is $195. The lunchbox is $550. Yeah, so you guys get the idea. Supreme is just a company that extorts money from basically young persons that are like, I have to have that thing because it says Supreme on it, and no one will think I'm cool if I don't have the thing that says Supreme on it, and then charges them all this crazy money because they have to be cool, and if they're not cool, then what are you going to do, man? You can't be 16 and be not cool. So they probably steal their parents' credit cards and buy a $500 water bottle. Which I will tell you, that looks like a piece of junk water bottle. And the crowbar doesn't even look like a good crowbar either. The Fish Tank Barn with a $5 super chat says the Ice Cream and Makerspace Fund. Ah, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mike. Mike has always been hugely supportive. Not even, aside from any kind of super chatting, Mike literally has driven me around in his van too many times, driving out to conventions and being so generous to drive us around to film at places and fish rooms and all that kind of stuff. And I really hope that Mike and I get to hang out sometime soon. I'm trying to figure out a good thing to go out to, not necessarily the Midwest, like maybe the upper Midwest. I kind of like it up there. What do you call that? Michigan, Minnesota, all that kind of jazz, Wisconsin, all that up there. I'd like to go back up there again, hopefully this year for something, and we'll see. Aquarium Co-op Corey just posted in the chat. I wonder if they'll get the irony of me putting the Supreme logo on Aquarium Co-op products. No, they absolutely will not. They won't get that joke. Well, I don't know. Let me rephrase that. I bet the owners would get the joke, but also their lawyers would get the email. And then I'll put it this way, the lawyers that work for them are on big time retainer for anybody trying to pull that shenanigans, and I doubt it is fun at all. I mean, even if you just have to show up with like one or two lawyers at $500 an hour, like I think steamroll anybody by just selling a couple of water bottles. They're like, oh, we sold some water bottles yesterday, so we have 90 lawyers showing up with I wouldn't want to deal with that. UG Aquatics says, I found some Build My Lights for $500, 2 and 60 watt drivers. I think I saw somebody had posted the Build My LED lights on Facebook the other day. Like somebody had a pair of them that they were selling off. I might have seen the exact same post. That is possible. Mike says Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin is the upper Midwest. Yeah, the Yoopers, man. The Yoopers are the upper part of Michigan, but yeah, I would like to make it back out there sometime soon and check up with some of my Minnesota people, my Michigan people, and I've been to Wisconsin, but I haven't been to any Wisconsin fish rooms yet. I haven't been to any of those, so I really would like to make it out to some of those at some point in time. The video that's playing in the background is actually a part of me destroying, and I put air quotes around destroying. It's not destruction. This is all part of me kind of tearing up the 150. You guys are going to see a pretty big remodel for this tank. The rescape and all that stuff is coming along quite well. It is going to be a really lengthy video, so hopefully people like it and it gets more than 1,000 views. Because I feel like I'm putting a buttload of work into this video. So hopefully hopefully it gets received well and hopefully it comes out good, because I might be a little bit depressed. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I do get a little bit depressed when videos don't do that well. I think it's just a reality of like being a human. I don't think there's any other way to explain it. Like you work a bunch and then it doesn't do all that great. It is kind of depressing. I would admit to that wholeheartedly. But we'll see how it goes. I'm excited with how well the 150 is looking now. So that's the upside. That's the other side of the coin. Byron says, Joel, get the green hats from Co-op. It will be like your own Supreme hats. Plenty of us will pay good money for one. I would love to get one of those Aquarium Co-op hats. I was offered one, but they are like extra large. They basically fit Corey's head and Randy's huge head. So I have a normal sized head. I think a Pro Fit cap, I'm like 7 1/4 or something like that. Yeah, I'm like 7 1/4, I think. But those guys are like an 8. They got the huge head. They get down in front of the TV and you got to ask them to move because head move. So yeah, I don't know. I forget what I was talking about. Oh yeah, the hat. But yeah, I think there's going to be some different hats coming up. I think the last time I talked to Corey, there's going to be some new Aquarium Co-op hats coming up, which you guys know me, man. I'm excited about hats. I like wearing hats, rocking a hat, but I haven't been wearing hats that much recently. I just kind of been rocking the haircut for a while. I'll probably shave my head and just go back to wearing hats, though, all the time. Although it's super difficult to, like, film yourself when you're wearing a hat. It's ridiculous. Joel says, I'm struck with the humanness. That's right. The humanity. The humanity of it all. Let's see. Candy Overhauls has got the sale for the Co-op. Does that happen now? I thought that was only for Father's Day. I thought that sale was only for Father's Day at the Co-op. I guess maybe I got that wrong. Maybe it's all week. If it's all week, I should probably be promoting it and, send you guys through my affiliate link. But you guys know how it is. It's all good. Let's see here. Oh, Fishkeeperus with a 99-cent super chat. Thank you very much. That's that automated. Take that 1 cent off for the iPhone, right? Let's see here. UG Quanix says that Tiger Spiralis is sexy looking, and I have to 100% agree with you. Very fantastic. Amazing plant. The Cryptocorini Spiralis Tiger. It's the Spiralis variety Tiger. There we go. I can get that out, I swear. Okay. Well, we've seen the video in the background. Didn't seem like there's that many questions. I hope I didn't miss any questions if I did. Let me give a big shout out to all of the super chatters of the day, because there was a bunch. Fishkeeperist, the Fish Tank Barn, Alvin Alejo, John Allen, thank you very much. Twin City Guppies, Virgil R. Garwood, the Zombie Drummer, Joshua Kelly, and Lee Coldfoot is our new member. Yeah, so we got new members and some super chats, and there's a sale at the Aquarium Co-op, so check that out. I thought that was only for Father's Day, but it's happening now. Okay. I don't know why it's happening now, but okay. Candy says she works there. She's got the deets. I trust you, Candy. I don't know how to read emails, so I got an email about it, or maybe I didn't even get an email about it. It was probably on Facebook or something. I don't know, and I just read it and was like, oh, that's cool. Father's Day's cool. Yeah, I need a nap. Somebody super chat me a nap. All right, buddies. I will talk to you all later. I don't know if there will be any edited videos this week. I have not had any time to edit it, even though I've been trying to edit it. I think I'm brain dead. I don't know, man. I've been trying. Either way, it's all good, and life continues on. I got to go cook dinner for Twin City Guppies and wife, and we'll have a fun dinner. So hope everybody has a good time out there. Keep your head up. Keep your chin up. Keep it going. And keep it going full steam. I'll talk to y'all later.